Hi there. My name is Joe from EW. I'm going to introduce three people from this film. Director Azazel Jacobs.
Thank you.
We have the lead actor in the film, Tracy Letts.
Thank you.
And the lead actress, the great Debra Winger.
Tracy, you sit over here.
Hello, everybody. Congratulations on this movie.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks.
you know, we're at a sort of post-screening Q&A, and I'm curious. I had heard that the two of you first met about 5 or so years ago at a post-screening Q&A. Can you tell that story?
Not unlike this.
Not unlike this. Yeah, it's true. I made a film that came out in 2011 called Terry that Debra was referred to seeing a mutual friend, right? Told you.
Yeah. We knew you were going to be. Well, we knew there was going to be a Q&A, and my son Noah, who's here tonight, came with me, and we went to the Eleanor Boonin, and then we waited and said hey afterwards, and it was an important hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the conversation that led to this kind of began then in 2011.
Yeah. How did the relationship continue after that first meeting?
I wrote him a letter because I thought maybe that conversation just wasn't enough. No. I think you looked a little stunned, but now I've come to understand that that's your face in repose.
Yeah, this is true. I did get a letter, and it did have, it said in the letterhead Debra Winger on it, and it was one of these letters that when you get, you just kind of keep, and I put on my wall, and I wrote whatever I was working on. I always had it kind of right above my head, thinking of, and then ultimately knowing that I was trying to write something that she would respond to.
Well, it's great, too, because before I ask you about the film itself, just about the casting of these two, you had Debra Winger, who hadn't been in the lead role in a movie, in a feature film in a while, and Tracy Letts, who a lot of us know as an amazing playwright of August Osage County and Bug, had never been in the lead role of a film ever. So what was the brainstorm that sort of led you to think of these two people?
Oh, well, there was no, with Debra was no, she's proven herself 1,000 times. That wasn't an issue, of course, just based on everything. And also, but more it was really just kind of going also, besides knowing what she's capable of, just going on that instinct of thinking like, this is a person that will make whatever I do better. And I also knew that with Debra involved, the right person and the best person would avail themselves, and that's what led to Tracy. I felt like whoever was up to work on that level would show themselves, and so when Tracy was suggested and we wound up talking, that's how that happened.
Tracy,
That was totally thrilling for him to come on board, for me.
For you?
Yeah, totally thrilling.
Had you guys known each other, you and Tracy?
No.
Nope.
No. So you first...
We didn't meet till that, yeah, there.
In the makeup trailer before our first shot. Yeah.
Really? Other thing that's interesting about the two of you together is you don't share that many scenes. Because you both have your adulterous partners, and you've told me that's sort of almost like a marriage in a way, right? Like, there's lots of time when you're not together. You're at work and you're, living your life. For both of you, I'm curious how much the themes of the film spoke to you personally and drew you in to wanting to make it.
Well, I think that, it can't, if you're doing your job, then it always speaks to you, whatever you're. In this particular instance, I think what fascinated me was, I know what I was there are more people holding things up than that's kind of a strange feeling. So, everybody's feel, the themes of the film, obviously you read the script and they resonate with you, and you sort of let yourself get saturated with them going in and your perspective as the character and all the things we do to get ready. But I guess what I couldn't have really really felt beforehand happened on the set with Aza bringing his life, his married life, the amount of years he's been with someone, and his wife who was also working on the film, and then Tracy who's a newlywed. I hope that's not like, too diminutive of a, but you had this long life of singledom and then was married, and I've been married for 25 years. So we have brought these different perspectives in, and I have said this before, but they had a prismatic sort of effect. Like it made the whole thing deeper, that we were all looking at the same idea of how do you make love last.
Yeah. What happens when that strain comes into a relationship? What did you like about the script as a writer? I mean, how is it when you read other material? Do you think of it as a writer?
I guess I think of it as a storyteller, and both the actor part of me and the playwright, right? It's all storytelling. I really liked the script. I liked all the blank space on the page. I liked that there wasn't a lot of dialogue in the first half of the film, so I understood some of the burden of the movie. I understood what was required of me and Debra in order to make the thing, and it was challenging and interesting to me. And I also just appreciated that the movie's about middle-aged people in love and dealing with love and sex and passion and affairs and marriage and matters of the heart, and frankly, things we don't see addressed in the popular culture very often, at least not in an adult fashion.
Aza, can you talk about the house that you guys shot in? It really is like a sort of another character in the film in a way. So much of the story takes place there. How did you find it? What were you looking for?
I was looking for a home that, I felt that this is very much a theater, that these were people that were playing roles in their life. And so I wanted a real location. I was looking for a real home, but one that kind of felt like a set of some sort. And so we were looking at places that had been built, that this whole neighborhood had come up at the same time, and really was not so much a cookie cutter, but like with that idea and I also like that had the space, but that really like this whole kind of theatrics that goes on in the film could be grounded in the actuality of that place existing in real life. And then I also wanted a place that we understood how they could wind up there, like a place that it has space, it's affordable, there's a good school, all these. I like this idea that Michael and Mary made all the right choices, the choices that you're supposed to, and then suddenly wound up in this situation.
Who was the house owned by? Somebody? Was it?
Did you? Well, I guess I had this whole also subtext going on that I grew up for a good part of my childhood out there in and around the San Fernando Valley, and this was in Santa Clarita, California, which is not dissimilar from sprawls in other areas in the country. And I guess when they were built, these houses were upwardly mobile. I mean, you had to really have solid, probably 2 jobs to get into that house and start to raise your family and stuff. And now, of course, those people in those neighborhoods, not all of them, but for the most part, they're white-knuckling it. As we know, that's the class that has really had the rug pulled out from under them. And in fact, the guy that owned this house was an Iraqi veteran who had a few kids and really was grateful for the check that he got, for us shooting there. And I think all of that is in the film. I mean, I think it all goes in there as texture. And besides the fact that I thought the house looked like opening night, but that may be just because I watched opening night the night before we started shooting.
No.
Though there is that Cassavetes, I mean, it feels like shooting in real homes is a very Cassavetes style of thing. What was it about depicting this type of life? I mean, as Debra said, a middle class life. They both work in sort of office space, cubicles. Apart from what you wanted to deal with in terms of the romance and the marriage themes, what was it about that that drew you in?
Well, I guess I'm really trying to write about. I'm trying to write about people that I don't know that I'm meeting through the work, but I'm also trying to do the opposite of what I just did usually. So for me, Terry was the opposite of Mama's Man, and this was the opposite of Doll and M. It was kind of just going in a different direction and taking me someplace that I really didn't know. And I knew that, the places that I knew, this town and Los Angeles, like I wanted to go someplace else. And that's what brought me to these characters. That also, it's like, my parents have been married for many, 50 years. And I've been long married. This is not my story, but ultimately if I could find a way that it could become my story or feel connected to it, I felt like it would be a good sign of other people hopefully connecting to it.
Tracy, curious how long the shoot was and what was it like being the lead actor in a feature film?
It was different. I hadn't done it before. It was different and challenging. The shoot was 23, 24 days, and I was unaccustomed to having that much work. It was great, challenging,
You were really
fun.
tired.
Yeah, we were tired. It's but it's a great. I mean, you're on set all day long, and then you go back to the Residence Inn right by the Bob Evans off of the highway, and your life is lived on the set making the movie. It's an intense period of time, but it's also, compared to work in the theater, it's actually a very short period of time. We made this movie in 24 days. That doesn't get you out of a rehearsal period in theater. So it felt like, wow, we did that, and now we're done, and we don't ever have to do it again. That's a great thing about making movies.
I was really sad because I felt like what you said about the fact that we actually don't have that many scenes together. We're so busy gallivanting around that, and we did all of our stuff. They had to work for a while before I got there because I was finishing up another job, and by the time we did our things, it was sort of towards the second half of the film, and I was really having a good time. I hadn't worked with somebody that I felt that kind of chemistry and the scene with and the same sort of approach, and it was just kind of magical. And then it was over, and I was really sad that you were going off to play Laurie Metcalf's husband. And so, just saying.
I understand.
Asa, did you feel that chemistry between the two of them once you had them together?
Yeah, I did. I mean, they're this first scene of them together in the film, where Michael's making pasta and then Debra and Mary walks in, and they have this kind of brief conversation. There's actually a kiss that was exchanged during that scene, and in the script it was really like, oh, it's a robotic kiss. But ultimately, when we saw it on every take, there was a connection already there that made it feel like there was no place to go. Like, you just saw something in sync too early for me. So that was from the beginning, it was there. And then by the time we got to the wine scene, I try to, as much as I can, shoot things in order. And in those first few scenes we were able to. And then with the wine scene, it was just like I could see, all right, they're working, and they're bringing in life, and they're bringing in all these things that aren't on the page that you just kind of really hope for.
Yeah. We have time for 2 or 3 audience questions. So if anybody has one, just raise your hand. Yes. In case anyone in here, a question about the musical score, which I think you worked on a lot. I mean.
Yeah, I've been working with the same composer for a long time. Her name is Mandy Hoffman. We've been working together for about 13, 14 years. But we've always kind of done these very minimal piano-based scores, and I think we had kind of got ourselves into a corner with that because that's just what we did. And so I knew that we both wanted to go someplace else, and then we also knew that because the piano was such a part of this story, that took away this kind of main base for us. And then without that foundation, suddenly things really started opening up. And then as we talked about the influences and we actually temped out some of the film, put temporary soundtracks of much earlier films from the 30s and 40s and 50s, we started finding our way in the way that I felt like, in maybe different than some of those films, they weren't, hopefully the intention wasn't to tell you how to feel, but it would tell you kind of how these characters were feeling in contrast to what you were seeing. And I like that. That contrast is usually what I'm looking for between actors and between the material. And then once I saw that was happening with the music, it got really exciting for me. But we began with the piano first and saw, like, how could that final scene grow? And that led us forward back to the beginning.
Yeah.
We really strongly feel the connection between the two of you. And in fact, I think the audience is viscerally disappointed when you wind up going to the lovers. What I'd like you to comment on that I don't think we quite see is what the attraction is to the lovers. They seem almost more annoying than worth the while.
Well, I think that's Oz's success, and it was like a magic trick, because I thought it was so, I don't know, it was just so interesting to me that you would open a story at the end of everything. I mean, it's not only the end of their marriage per se, you know, or what we think it's kind of run out, but the momentum that had catapulted them into, or no, momentum comes after the catapulting. So you would be catapulted down a path of, you know, searching for something to make you feel good, and you end up with someone else, and you look back and go, uh-oh, you know, it's already too late. But that was sort of petering out as well. And so that's where we find our happy couple at that moment.
I think the people you're having affairs with right now aren't that interesting either. I think there's something, to be said for the fact that they're looking for something outside of their marriage, but that doesn't mean that the thing outside of their marriage is better, right? You have an affair to make yourself feel better. It might actually not have that much to do with the other person.
Well, my thing, too, is that you're looking for yourself. It's this constant quest, like, will this person see me? Will they tell me who I am? And so sometimes you can end up with the oddest bedfellows, you know, looking for yourself.
I mean, lastly, just to add on top of that, I wanted Robert and Lucy to not be happy with how they were acting, that they were themselves were not how they feel, not who they wanted to be, you know, like they'd gotten to that place where they're just like they can't stop being a certain person because they feel something slipping. And it's something that I related to, where you just sometimes you get into this way where you're just not liking yourself, being something, but you can't stop doing it. And the more that you feel it slipping, the more you deeper into it, the more that you become that way.
Somebody else? It's a question about Debra's son's reaction, one of whom is here.
I saw you on Stephen Colbert last night speaking about your sons.
Oh, yeah. Well, two of them have seen it, and they dug it. They were with us at Tribeca, and I think they dug it, you know, albeit for a lot of reasons, but I think the filmmaking is the thing, because they're both interested in that, and I think Oz's work is, you know, the film is just, excuse me, but I think it's winning, you know, it's just a winning film. So we are a family of cinephiles. We appreciate good films. But I was sitting next to my 19-year-old during the screening. You know, there were some odd moments. But that said, we've watched worse together when someone else was, I was squirming and he was fine. But somehow when it was his mom, it wasn't quite so fun.
But how
I got
often
him back. It was good.
How often have you had the experience of watching even your earlier films with your children?
Never. Noah, can you answer that? I never took them to my films. We never went to openings of my film. I think there was some basement viewing later, but
I mean, in terms of endearment, it was on cable every day for 15 years.
We didn't watch TV.
Okay.
Yeah. No, seriously, I don't remember. Am I lying? Or am I not remembering? I don't remember any. I tried for the first bit of time not to even really let them know what it was I did, so that was, you know.
You sit down and watch Terms of Endearment right now, young man. Yeah. Don't come out of that basement till you're done watching Terms of Endearment.
Yes.
So obviously your connection is electric. I was wondering, as the filming progressed, did you do anything in terms of working together off set to kind of ramp up that connection that
There
you had?
was no offset.
There wasn't any. There
Yeah,
was,
we
the
slept.
Residence Inn,
Yeah.
and there was nothing. I appreciate you saying that. The thing about chemistry is, I think, this is my theory, that you can't just sit and wait for it to walk through the door. You're not doing your job as an actor if you're just sitting there waiting, saying, "I wonder if I'm going to have chemistry with this person." You have to make it. You have to be open to it. You have to offer it. It doesn't just. It's not pixie dust. It's the job of an actor to create it. And if you're not creating it, you're not doing the job. So I think Debra and I were both realized reading the script it wasn't going to work unless we did that. So that's the gig.
It's also sort of, as much as you go up to the start line, once you say yes, it's a pretty freeing feeling. I mean, really, there was no choice but to have our yes to Azam really mean yes. You can't say yes to a director and then say, but no, not that. Like, yes is yes. So I read the script. I'm, grown up. I'm like, whatever you want, dude, I'll do it, and then trust that the cut is going to be respectful,
Let me ask you guys one last question. This movie was shot about a year or two ago, right?
No, a year.
A year.
Exactly.
We started shooting a year ago from last week, yeah.
So in the 12 months since, there's been lots of upheaval in the world, whichever side you're on. Everyone
Really?
admits it. It's upheaval. But do you think that?
Anything about it.
This probably wouldn't have been in your mind that much. Maybe it was consciously when you were filming it or when you were writing it, Aza. That the themes about sort of just desire for intimacy with the people who you're close to, that those are alive in this sort of May 2017 world.
Yeah, look, I'm somebody that really wants to make work that relates to the world that we live in somehow, but I haven't figured out how to do that as an objective. So I just try to write something that feels alive and feels truthful to me and think that it's going to have a place and that there's a reason that happened. But my guess is that this is always the case. Like, if this was coming out 2 years ago or in a couple of years from now, it would still hopefully feel that way, because I know that this is particular upheaval right now, but I think that it always, in some ways, has felt that way to me.
For me, the best films, especially of the 70s and 80s, that I, think they were slices of Americana, American films. And I can't emphasize enough that how I felt so many things at work because of Oz's choices. I mean, he didn't know Santa Clarita from anything. I mean, when he told me we're going to shoot in Santa Clarita, I said, "You've got to be kidding. Like, why?" Because it was the most boring place in the world to me to select for a location. But it ended up being, magical choice. And it was because he had no value judgment on it. It just looked right to him. And I think all the themes and the fact that, divorce in a way, it's a luxury economically. I mean, you say, "Oh, we're really not getting along as well as we used to. Let's both have apartments. Let's, split up." I mean, there's the largest sector of our country cannot do that. So I think that this was telling a story that resonates on a lot of different levels, and so therefore, it is very much of right now.
Do you want to add to that as a storyteller who?
I don't think so. I mean, I just don't have anything to add to that.
Well, I want to say congratulations, Debra. Welcome back. In a way,
Where I am, but okay.
And Aza, a talent that we're all going to watch for years, and Tracy, see a lot more of you too, in leading roles.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.